Thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name is Craig Baty. I live in Sydney. I'm speaking at 1/4 of my normal speed, because if I speak like most Australians speak, no one in the room will understand anything I say because we don't use punctuation and grammar. So I'll actually slow down. If I get too fast, it's because I'm excited. So put your hand up and slow me down. So you can get used to my accent, I thought I'd share something with you. Australia is a long, long way away. I arrived yesterday after 2 taxis, 3 planes, 2 airport trains, 2 airport buses, and a 5-minute walk from the hotel. 32 hours to speak for 45 minutes. I could speak for 2 days, but Bruno said 45 minutes is enough with my accent. Australia and Italy have a lot in common, so I thought I'd do some research about the involvement of Italy with Australia. I don't know if you know that in 1676, before Australia was really discovered, an Italian Dominican missionary noted a landmass below New Guinea, and it was Australia. So Italians put Australia on the map. Second thing, Captain Cook, the English guy who discovered Australia, on the first trip to Australia in 1770, there were 2 Italian crewmen. So Australians and Italian have always been linked, even since the first ship arrived there. And thirdly, you may know that Australia was populated in 1788 as a criminal colony, convicts. Now, England took the Irish and Scottish and English people who were called convicts. Basically, these were the cleverest people in the country because they were surviving in the street. They were entrepreneurs, they were innovators. So England sent them to Australia, but there was 1 Italian convict on the ship as well. So not only helped discover it, but helped create our heritage. Now Australians are looking for convicts and criminals in our background so we can say we're original Australians. So hopefully there's an Italian family somewhere here that can say that. Since that time, over 10% of all immigrants to Australia have come from Italy. 10%. And now, as of the census that was conducted last year, more than 1 million Australians say they are of Italian descent, either born in Italy, have a father or grandmother, grandfather. So we have a lot in common. That's almost 5% of the population. Australia is very big compared to Italy. You can see how many times Italy would fit into Australia. And there is meant to be another island somewhere on their map, but didn't appear. Maybe bigger, but Italians have big hearts, and I really appreciate the welcome that I've had here. So thank you very much. So today, we're going to talk about digital co-creation. Fujitsu has a document, which you have in the red bag, called the Fujitsu Technology and Services Vision. I'm a co-author of this. I've been authoring it with my Japanese college and UK colleagues and US colleagues for the last 5 years. It started as a document that basically showed Fujitsu's structure. It's unusual for a Japanese company to actually take a document like this and say, this is where we think the market is, and this is where we think it's going. Japanese do not really like to stand out. Japanese marketing will only advertise and sell things that they can do 100%. Whereas in the West, if we come up with a good idea, next thing you know, it'll be on Twitter, and we'll say this is going to happen, and maybe 10 years later we'll deliver it, maybe not. The Japanese want to make sure that if they say it, they can deliver it. So this document, Technology and Services Vision, is the only document produced by a Japanese company that says this is where we're going and what we're going to do. And the theme changes every year. The overarching theme is human-centric computing, or the creation of a human-centric intelligent society. And what that means, a society aimed at solving basic human needs, not using technology for technology's sake, but using technology to solve basic problems. And so in this short presentation, I'm going to go through some of the information in here. If you are not very technical and extremely business-minded, maybe your CEO or the board, the smaller document's useful. Right? It has lots of pictures. If you're more technical, the red book, book 1, has all the details about what I'm presenting now in 45 minutes. Please read it. And book 2, the grey book, has how this has been implemented with 10 case studies from companies around the world, how we've actually worked together to co-create, because that's the theme this year, digital co-creation, co-create digital transformation. But before we start, we're going to do a small survey. This is going to be an interactive session. Each of you has a device like this. Please pick it up. And there are numbers on there. And there are 5 questions. And after I've read the questions, I'm going to ask you to vote by just pressing one number. And you'll have 15 seconds. The question is, if you could choose a superpower for your business, what would it be? So always make the best decision. X-ray vision of everything in your organisation. Read your customers' minds. Immunity to risks and threats, or see into the future. So you have 15 seconds. Go. Okay. So, the superpower you want. I had someone in Australia say, if I could be any superpower I want, they wanted to be Cold War Russia. That's a superpower, only a joke, okay. Always make the best decision. 30% of people want to make the best decision. They want to have X-ray vision of everything in their organisation. I'll see later why 3% is a very low score. Maybe people don't actually understand what this means. Intel talked about the intelligent dashboard. We'll give an example of how this is being used to almost give you X-ray vision into your organisation. Read your customers' minds. Be able to predict what's going to happen next, where your customers are going to line up in a queue, where they've actually looked in a store and what they might look at next and what they might buy next. Interactive real time. Immunity to risks and threats. 6%. Okay, that's interesting. This is all about security. You would think with what's happening in the world at the moment that this would be higher, but maybe people in Italy feel safer. And see into the future, 40%. Interesting scores. Okay, we'll talk more about this as we go through and share some results from a global survey Fujitsu had. So, let's think big. We talked about how big Australia is. Let's think big. If you could save a life using technology, how exciting would that be? 1 in 15 adults around the world has suffered from depression in the last year. More than 27% of people in the world have some kind of mental disorder, whether it's substance abuse, alcohol abuse, strange behaviours, or very extreme mental disorders, 27%. And 90% of all suicides in the world are caused by a mental disorder. More than 800,000 people committed suicide in the last 12 months on a global basis that we know of. If we could somehow use computers to help us identify patterns in people and help predict some of the implications, then maybe we could save a life by treating these people. Fujitsu's worked with San Carlos Hospital in Madrid. I'm going to show you a 2-minute video where the customer is actually speaking in English, a real customer. A little bit long, but hopefully you'll get some good information about it and then share some of the results. So please show the video.
There is no other sector as healthcare where the core should be human-centric. The fact that Fujitsu adheres itself to human-centric innovation makes possible the transformation of healthcare. For us, mental health is a real issue. Medicine and psychiatry deal with a limited set of data, and based on experience, you diagnose patients, you label them, and you treat them according to that label. As humans, we are very good at integrating some data, but a very limited set of data, and then make decisions. And we call that intuition and clinical judgment. That is useful when you deal with a very limited number of patients. Computers are much better than us at managing large quantities of data.
If we have the opportunity to have a whole information about a group of patients similar to our patient, a specific patient, I think it is very good support for doctors.
With big data and cognitive technologies, we can do things that were not done before.
We have the offer of Fujitsu to help us to answer our questions that Fujitsu understood that were relevant both from the professional and from social point of view.
The Fujitsu solution is an application that takes advantage of artificial intelligence that processes data stored in medical records or healthcare records and can identify diagnosis and risk factors, and it can show the clinician who is at risk of what and what the most likely diagnosis is. Fujitsu solution gets there, over 95% of accuracy when compared to 8 experts, 8 psychiatrists with more than 20 years of experience. It's very preliminary. What we're doing is still experimental, but clearly it's going to be key over the next 20 years. If the solution works and we can scale it up and make it work for clinicians on a daily basis everywhere, we will save time that clinicians can devote to do human things, like taking care of patients personally. Fujitsu is extremely well positioned to implement human-centric innovation in healthcare to disrupt the way we practice medicine today.
So as you may know, Japan has one of the oldest populations on the planet. There are more than 100,000 people in Japan who are older than 100 years. There are more pets and animals in Japan than there are children. So this is an aging population, and developing healthcare and ways of treating mental disease, which tends to happen as you get older, keeping people out of hospitals, creating artifacts and devices that can monitor people so that they can be treated at home is extremely important. This is an example of digital disruption in action. The system learned 36,000 records. It was 95% accurate as a team of 8 clinicians. Now, the idea isn't to replace doctors. The idea is to help make the diagnosis quicker and more accurate so that the doctors can actually perform better treatment for the people and apply. So we're not replacing doctors, we're augmenting. As you see through this presentation, the whole thing is not to replace humans. It's to make humans better, faster, quicker, to help us do the things that we do better, and let the computers do the things that they do better. So technology will transform healthcare over the next 20 years. So you can see how technology can disrupt healthcare. We're going to do another survey. Will your sector be digitally disrupted over the next 5 years? So question, yes, it will become unrecognisable. Yes, it will change fundamentally. Yes, it will change in specific areas. There may be small changes, or no, it will not change at all. So please get your voting device out again and start the survey now. Right. So within 5 years, your industry will become unrecognisable, 15%. Change fundamentally, 34.8%. Change in specific areas, 37%. There may be some small changes, 10.9%, and no, it will not change at all. I'm not sure where that industry is, but if you feel safe and secure, then maybe join that industry. So we'll go to the slides. Digital disruption is what this is all about. We're going to be talking about digital disruption, how you actually take part in digital disruption so it doesn't disrupt you through digital transformation, how you use connected services and organisations like Fujitsu and our partners to leapfrog and move ahead into this new world. And then a summary. We conducted a global survey in January this year, and a lot of the results are in the booklets that I've handed out. But some of the key results are that 75% of business leaders say that their sector will fundamentally change in the next 5 years. It's basically double what this audience said. 52% believe their organisations will not exist in their current form within 5 years. So their organisation will look completely different. And only 7% see themselves leading digital transformation. And that last one is a big concern. Only 7% see themselves leading. Not everyone can be a leader, but 7% seems to be a little bit low. Maybe that's just 1 or 2% in each industry, and we need more people to be leaders in this area. And we think people don't actually understand what digital transformation means and what the impact is. That's the reason for this type of event and this type of keynote. In order to cope with digital disruption, you need some form of digital transformation. How do you move from point A, non-disrupted, to point B, disrupted? And there are 3 major trends to take into account with digital transformation. The first one is that intelligence makes a difference. I'm not talking about human intelligence, I'm talking about the ability to collect information from sensors, devices, from other systems, to understand what that information means, to take some advice or get some advice, and then to act on it and respond. So the whole ability to sense and respond, in summary. Connecting things changes the nature of business. And the way things will be connected are through APIs, applications, programs, interfaces. Could be a few lines of code, could be massive lines of code. Could be yours, could be someone else's. But the ability to hook into APIs, to connect with other people's APIs, to buy and sell APIs, is the future of digital transformation. And when you connect using APIs to other businesses that are doing digital transformation, you start creating a business digital arena. Arena is a place that you do battle, or a place that you actually work. So connecting with these organisations, start creating a digital arena, and we talk more about that in the book. And then do everything from the customer's viewpoint. We don't talk about transport or cars, we talk about mobility, getting people from one place to another. We don't talk about treatment, we talk about well-being, the end objective. We don't talk about how many beds are in the hospital. We talk about how many people we can actually make feel better. And in retail, it's not about what we're selling. It's about the overall experience that the customer has from end to end. And digital transformation is based on resolving the issues for these 3 mega trends. So another set of questions. How engaged is your organisation in digital? Not engaged in digital, planning for digital, running proof of concepts, implementing digital transformation, or we are fully digital? Please do the survey now. Great. Okay, it's good to see. Only 6.7% are not engaged in digital. 15.4% are running proof of concepts. 15.4, implementing digital transformation. 51%. Running proof of concept. 51% implementing digital transformation. And 11.5%, we are fully digital. If you are fully digital, can you please introduce yourself to Bruno? We'd love to work out what you've done and how you've done it in Italy, because we need some more case studies of the Italy that can do things, not the Italy that can't do things, as both of our speakers talked about. I want to mention something. If you're in a manufacturing organisation, especially automotive, downtime can cost $1.2 million an hour. $1.2 million an hour if your organisation is disrupted. People who are providers to organisations, car organisations for example, could pay a penalty of $4,000 for every minute that they are the cause of downtime. This is due to potential losses of sales, quality control, especially quality control. Last year, a number of major organisations lost billions of dollars because of quality control. Volkswagen set aside over 7 billion euros. Toyota, over 3 billion euros. Takata Airbags, $24 billion of losses because of quality control. And many of these issues can be resolved by having greater visibility into what's actually happening. And so there are 4 pillars that form the basis of digital transformation, and the first one is the Internet of Things. Now, we hear about the Internet of Things in terms of simple things to start with, like, my cufflinks will know where my car keys are. And together they'll help me find my car when I parked it at the airport 10 days ago. And I've come back and I don't remember where my car is. That happens to me a lot. Okay? Where did I put my keys? Where's my mobile phone? So you see simple things like this. A friend of mine is totally colourblind. His wife writes a letter A on the back of a tie, an A on the shirt, an A on the trousers and the coat. And he knows, put all the A together, that's what he should wear. If he gets it wrong, you can tell. He looks terrible. He wants an application where he can just scan his wardrobe and it tells him, based on that and what the weather's like, these are the clothes that should go together. So we hear about Internet of Things in those ways. But when we think of Internet of Things in terms of solving industrial problems, we can go a long way, and we'll share some examples. So the overall trend in the Internet of Things is hyper-connected businesses, everything connected, and we're calling this Industry 4.0. And then we have real-time visibility and digital twins. This is where we combine our devices and our factory layout or our store layout, maybe some tools like augmented reality and virtual reality, so that we can actually look and walk through the factory, walk through our activities, and see what's happening in real time. The dashboard that Intel referred to earlier is an example of that, and we have a case study that we'll share with you in a moment. This means you can see things that were previously hidden. It gives you insight and a greater level of control over things that are causing issues, and it can help with your innovation based on information. So these are the 3 areas of the Internet of Things. A Chinese company, an Acer Group, it's a state-owned Chinese company. Fujitsu has partnered with them. They have, the Chinese government has a policy, made in China by 2025, where they're working across every pillar of industry, from IT to transport to communications. Just look at what Chinese companies are doing. It's an overall strategy to be first, second, or third in every industry on a global basis. And Acer is a manufacturer, and we've worked with them to co-create a smart factory pilot. It uses Fujitsu Enterprise Application Intelligent Dashboard, which helps the organisation identify where there's a problem. For example, an alert comes up and it says, oh, there's a slowdown in production in this factory in this city. They can go to the dashboard will take them to that factory, take them to the factory floor. This is all done electronically. They're not seeing the real factory floor. They're seeing the sensors and the feedback that's coming from cameras and IoT and the devices and the applications and the humans on their various pads. There's a problem here. How do we fix it? The information can go from head office right through to the factory floor to that person on the floor to say, do this, apply this activity, or something can be reset from headquarters. They can get that particular device, might be a printer, might be a lathe, might be a laser scanner or something, up and running and get production going again. All this can be done for head office. Fujitsu's implemented this for NASA, and we're doing this for a number of companies on a global basis. In that one example, we've increased productivity by 25%, and it looks like inventory costs will decrease by 30% through the implementation of an intelligent dashboard. This is the true power of Industry 4.0 and technologies like Internet of Things. Of course, IoT, artificial intelligence, big data mobility can't exist by themselves. They need some kind of a backbone, and the backbone is the cloud. In this case, the Fujitsu cloud. Cloud technologies have gone from just being, let's put some data and storage somewhere, through to let's create an agile platform of existing IT, or robust IT and fast IT, and we call those two things together, robust IT and fast IT, hybrid IT, coexisting. Let's put them in the cloud. Let's enable you to scale up, scale down, improve costs, improve control. Be agile, start up things very quickly, test things quickly, succeed quickly or fail quickly, and move on to the next thing. So improve agility. APIs we talked about before. These exist in the cloud. Connecting with APIs, even selling your own APIs to make money from them is a real business for some organizations. And creating a level of balance and control. What do I have in my old existing systems? What can I move into new systems? What can I put onto someone else's systems? What can I build locally? What can I share publicly? What do I need for privacy? The ability to use cloud is extremely important as the second pillar for digital transformation. We have a case study in Finland, S Group and ABC Petrol. It's a very large petrol selling organisation. They have 1,600 service stations or gas stations or petrol stations, whatever you call it in this country, fuel stations, and more than 400 other outlets. Fujitsu created an application that has dramatically improved the use of petrol from this organisation and improved their sales. It's a handheld app, or on the car. Car drives into the service station. It tells them which pump's available. They drive to the pump. They hit the number. Yes, I want to use pump 3. They get out of the car. They fill their tank. They get back in the car and they drive away. All the payments, all the receipts, all the transaction, all the fuel, all of that data is sent to a website that customer can get to, and it's all done back to head office. More than 800,000 people, 600,000 customers have downloaded this application within a 12-month period. Productivity and sales have increased dramatically. Simple application, fantastic use. In Japan, hydrogen fuel cells are becoming extremely popular. Hydrogen cars are becoming popular. The problem is, where can you find a hydrogen station? Now, they have two types of hydrogen stations in Japan. They have fixed hydrogen stations, which are only open at certain times of the day. And they have mobile hydrogen stations that turn up on a freeway between certain hours in case someone needs fuel while they're on the freeway. So Fujitsu's worked with Toyota and other organizations to create an application that basically helps people find the hydrogen fuel stations, find the best price, and guide the car to them. So this is a combination of cloud, Internet of Things, big data, analytics, and just normal retail practices. So with digital, and before we move on to the third pillar, we'll ask this question. There are obviously some threats. There's things you might be concerned about. So, question 1. Are you worried about security threats compromising the company or customer data? Question 2, finding people with the right skills. Question 3, your internal culture, fear for change. How difficult will it be to implement these things in your company? Complexity, how tough will it be? And I'm not worried about digital at all. So please vote. Okay, what do we have? Security threats, 26.9%. Finding people, 10.6%. Internal culture, 37.5%. This is actually the biggest challenge to most things in the world. People changing their minds, people being threatened by digital transformation. Is it going to put me out of a job? How do I actually cope and survive? Complexity, 9.6%. And I'm not worried about digital at all, 15.4%. Okay, relatively reasonable scores. So let's move on to the third pillar, which is obviously going to be security. In our global survey of 1,600 C-level executives, not just CIOs, some marketing people, some CEOs, some finance people, 93% of organisations report a security breach in the last year. The average cost of a data breach is $3.5 million, and the average downtime for a data breach is 8 hours. This is the average. Sometimes it's days, 10, 15 days. Sometimes it's minutes, but the average is 8 hours. And if you think of that in the context of the manufacturing organisation, 8 hours at $1.2 million an hour, right? Close to 10 billion euros, $10 billion of downtime for a security breach. So it's extremely serious. It normally takes 9 months to identify 60% of security threats. That's only 60%. The other 40% can take a long time, and maybe you'll never identify them. And this is where artificial intelligence and big data comes into its own to help people identify security threats and to take action before an issue occurs. We have a big Europe is implementing the European Union General Data Protection Regulation. This basically says that by May 25th, 2018, all of you in Europe have to report your security breaches, and being compliant is about protecting customer trust. Once it's mandatory to report security breaches, no one can hide behind the curtains. They can't hide their security issues, and so it can completely destroy your company or your brand if people actually discover what's happening in your organisation. So now is the time to act. Also, there are extensive fines, 20 million euros or 4% of turnover, whichever is the greater. The bigger you are, the harder you will fall. Fujitsu, of course, has consulting services to help organisations identify what data needs to be protected and what doesn't, because you don't need to have everything at that level. Some data doesn't matter, some data does. Where you can store this data, what the privacy regulations actually mean for you as well. Help you set up threat assessments, help you set up responses. Fujitsu has a global security emergency response team, 24/7, to actually help mitigate these threats as well. And one example of a company that's doing this is Norsk Hydro. This is a Norwegian company that started as an aluminium company, but then discovered that it was cheaper for them to have their own hydroelectric systems and generate their own electricity than to buy it, because aluminium production requires an incredible amount of electricity and energy. So they've become an extremely large provider of hydroelectricity and renewable electricity and other energy. So we worked with Norsk Hydro over the last couple of years to evaluate the whole security system, because unless digital transformation is accompanied by some level of security, a high degree of security, then all you're going to do is cause problems. Power and utilities are big targets for malicious attacks. The number of threats to utility organisations on a global basis between 2013 and 2014 increased 573% on the previous year. So almost 6 times more threats than the year before. This is a major area for people to attack, whether they're terrorists or whether they're just attempting to create trouble. Infrastructure and utilities are extremely difficult to protect. We've created a dedicated Fujitsu response team, and using facilities such as Fujitsu's Palm Secure, we've helped Norse create a highly reliable, high secure environment. I don't know whether you know about Palm Secure, but it's a physical security device based on reading the veins in your palm. It reads the oxygen. There is something like a 1 in 2 billion chance that someone else has the same palm vein identification. So maybe there's only 3 or 4 people in the world that can impersonate you. You don't need to touch the scanner. The scanner is this size. In fact, we've got a small scanner you can buy and just plug into the side of a Fujitsu laptop. It's about 1 inch square. Or you can have the full industrial size one that goes on ATMs or goes on data centers or on cages or on doors or whatever for authentication. It's also very hygienic. You don't actually have to touch anything. So it works very well in countries like Japan, where people are constantly worried about germs because of the small population. You can see Palm Secure downstairs. There's some demonstrations of Palm Secure. We've implemented this in their operation in Brazil. They have more than 2,000 staff and miners who are using Palm Secure for security. So we're not just talking about things that aren't real, we're talking about things that can actually happen today. And in conjunction with emergency response teams, design and development of applications and systems, having many other devices connected to the system, we can ensure a high degree of reliability and security. Now, all of these things generate a huge amount of data. And this is where artificial intelligence comes into play. And as soon as I mention the word artificial intelligence, people start looking at what's been quoted in the paper by some very famous people. Artificial intelligence is dangerous. They say artificial intelligence is going to create robots to enslave the world. I'm a fan of the Terminator movies, and Skynet, and so on. There's lots of other movies out there, the 100, where an AI goes crazy and decides there's too many humans and kills everyone, leaving a few thousand people in space. Fujitsu doesn't believe this is going to happen. In fact, we're determined to make sure that computers do what we want, that artificial intelligence augments what we want to do, and actually makes our life easier, not harder. There are a number of different levels of artificial intelligence, a number of terms, and I'll talk about some of those now. The first one is narrow AI. It's what it says, narrow artificial intelligence. And this is where computers are trained to do things that humans can do, just do them faster. There's no real intelligence there. Maybe they can play a game better, or they can answer questions, or they can find information quickly. That's the first level of artificial intelligence. And then we move to the next level of artificial intelligence, which is machine learning. For example, if I wanted to teach a robot or a machine to cross a road, I can program it with a series of hundreds or thousands of instructions. If the light is green, if there are no people, if there are no cars coming, if it's not slippery, then it's okay to step out. Make sure you look left, or right, left, right, depending on what country. Program all of this, and the machine can learn, based on its actions, what was good and what isn't. So if it does the wrong thing, you say that was wrong. If it does the right thing, you say that was right. Over a period of time, trial and error, eventually the machine learns the right thing. And like in the San Carlos Hospital example, it can get it right 95% of the time. That's just standard machine learning. But deep learning is where we can actually show the computer thousands of hours of videos of someone crossing the road and let the computer learn from the videos and the images what is right and what is wrong and provide weightings. Okay? So you can just program it or you can show it by example. So that's the next level of AI. And what makes this possible is the creation of neural networks. Now, a neural network is what it sounds like. It's based on human biology. Humans have neurons. Neurons store information, they connect, and gradually the brain forms patterns by connecting neurons, and we end up with images or learned behaviors layers and layers of neurons, billions and billions and billions of neurons. So artificial intelligence using neural networks is the same thing. Building layers and layers of learnings and weightings and behaviours into a neural network. So deep learning using neural networks can be used for things like vehicle recognition. Recognise the colour of a car, the shape of a car, is it in the right place? For people, the way people walk, the way people look, colour of the hair, face, even things like the palm vein and fingerprints can all be used for people recognition. And the final one, handwriting recognition. Fujitsu's developed a system that can recognise Chinese characters at 96.1% accuracy. That's more accurate than a human who's studied Chinese their whole life can do. So putting all these things together can give us an incredible advantage in identifying trends and patterns. And that's where we move to the next level. How is AI best used? Well, we can use it for anomaly detection. Let's look at the example of security. Security logs have many patterns. There's standard access, there's access to restricted data, there's access to confidential data, and then there's things that we don't expect to happen. So by creating images, because neural networks are particularly good at understanding images, for example, if you show a picture of a cat, it can identify, well, there's some sharp edges, there's some round edges, there's pixels, there are some whiskers, there are some ears, there are some legs. Oh, that must be a cat, all based on images and how they work together. In this case, various patterns are created depending on the security aspects in the system. The system learns the normal patterns, but when it sees a rare shape, so these are normal shapes, a rare shape, it can instantly go, there's an anomaly, and it can take an action. It doesn't need to know what the threat is. It doesn't even need to know it's a threat. It just knows it's not conforming to the normal pattern. It can do it many hundreds, billions of times faster than we can do and instantly quarantine that data before the threat can even expand. That's what we're using in Fujitsu's security response teams, and it's one example of how AI can be used to do things that humans just can't do to solve some of the problems. So we call that creation of patterns graphing the data. There are many different domains for graph data. There's supply chain, for example. You could have graph data where a system recognises the size or shapes of box in a truck, how many are there, how much does the truck weigh, yes, this truck is loaded properly, it can leave, without a human having to check it, something like that. Financial technology, worms, algorithms that may cause problems, that may cause stock markets to crash. If too many things are doing something too quickly, the system can slow down using AI until a human or something can take charge or actually suspend training before stock markets crash. Social networks, drug discovery, mobile and IoT. And so all of these things put together are what we call connected services. And so Fujitsu's model is that connected services are based on a cloud, and in our case, the cloud is local cloud built on Primergy and Eternus with OpenStack or SUSE or Red Hat. You can see that downstairs. Or Fujitsu's own cloud called K5, which is currently live in Finland, Spain, Germany, UK, US. And you can use that as shared public. It's private. You can build your own cloud. On this, the data and analytics platforms, which we design and develop and help you build, our AI platform, IoT platform, all of these exist and can be used with a solid wrapper of security, designed, developed, implemented and supported by Fujitsu and its partners, including Intel and Microsoft, and supported at the service desk level and other areas by ServiceNow. I mentioned SUSE and Red Hat. I'm purposely mentioning our gold and platinum sponsors, by the way. Just thought I'd share that with you. And this overall offering is called MetaArc. Meta meaning big and large, and arc meaning overarching. That's Fujitsu's offering. And so putting all these together, we can actually result in a number of transformational outcomes. We can improve decision making. We can have higher visibility of what's happening in our organisation, our factory, with our customers. We have better insights on customer behaviour from when they're walking around, what they look at, what they touch, what they buy. Protection from security threats, and incredible predictive power, being able to know and see the future. But even Fujitsu can't do this alone, and you can't do it alone. You need someone to help you. And so the whole theme of this event is digital co-creation. All of the exhibitions, all the presentations about bringing all of these technologies together, connected services, to achieve a digital outcome. And digital co-creation is also based on how do we work together to disrupt the future or handle the disruption. It's a collaborative approach, the working together bit, and it works by harnessing intelligence, connectivity, and having a pure customer orientation. It's all about the customers, it's all about the humans, which falls very neatly into our overall philosophy of creating a human-centric, intelligent society. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you.